And somehow we have staggered through another week. It is Friday. It is what is it? The 22nd of November. Oh my God, almost at the end of November. Where did the year go? Don't know. I'm Russ Kane. This is the Midday Show. Thank you for joining us. Now, Fridays, as we know, is Showbiz Day. And I'll be talking about the film I saw yesterday with the wonderful Chantal Rickards OBE at about 12:30. But before that, you know him, you love him. He's fearless. He can get to the front of a queue in a theatre bar, get a gin and tonic before anybody else. He's like the Flash. Ladies and gentlemen, our very own theatre critic, Jonathan First Night Baz.
Russ, good afternoon, and
Good
lovely,
afternoon to you.
lovely to be here as the festive season draws ever closer,
Jeez,
and the festive shows are
please, I can't bear it.
everywhere to be found. You really, your radio's very own Scrooge. You really are.
I am. I've never liked it, and as I've got older, I've disliked the whole nonsense because it starts in about October, so that the supermarkets can sell every piece of crap that they need to sell. I mean, it's just nonsense, isn't it? It's just absolute nonsense there.
I mean, historically, in Baz Towers, we've never, for cultural reasons, on the basis that we don't celebrate Christmas, we've never.
They're Druids. They're Druids. The whole family are Druids. They're white witches.
We've never had a Christmas tree.
Right.
However,
I love Christmas trees. No, I love Christmas trees.
We do have a tree, sort of some evergreen thing outside our house that's quite tall and sort of is in a bit of a Christmas tree shape. And so what we decided,
it's called an oak tree, Jonathan. It's called an oak tree, by the way.
No. I know my oaks, and I know my beeches and all these other things, and it doesn't have conkers either. No, it looks a bit Christmassy. Oh. And a good few years ago, a very dear friend, sadly passed away, gosh, a handful of years ago, suggested that we should festoon that tree with Christmas lights. So we took him at his word, and we do. And now every year, in fact, I arrange, because to use a phrase, my ladder's not long enough.
Well, rumours have been abound for some time in the West End about that.
There you go. So my ladder's not long enough. So a very, very good chappie who does odd jobs for us pops along, festoons it with lights, and it looks very nice. And I guess over the last 20 or 30 odd years that we've lived in this particular stretch of Hertfordshire, it's our neighbours, delightful Hindu families, predominantly, and the Hindu makeup of our development has grown and grown and grown. And now you have the Festival of Christmas, with perhaps the only Jewish family in the close, which is us, having the Christmas lights being enjoyed by the Hindu families and all their children. And it really is. This is multiculturalism at its finest.
At its finest. That's what it's about.
Finest.
You know, if it's just jolly and pretty lights and stuff like that, I'm all for it. Which is why I love Christmas trees. I know it's silly. I remember the smell. When I was trying to be the good dad, when my big kids were little kids, my big kids are very big now, but when they were very little, I said, we are going to plant the Christmas tree in the garden, and next year we can use it again. Marvelous. So with a big Sarah, they were tiny, right? So I can think now she's got the #1 podcast in her field in the world. But anyway, they're little tots. I'd take them, get them dressed up in their little coats, go out into the garden. Great ceremony. I dig the hole. I put the tree in, and that. Anyway, weeks go by. Oh my God, that is the. I'm going to have to hand it over to you. That is an emergency phone call.
Right. Okay. Gosh. So it's not Christmas yet, but it's late November and it's almost Christmas. And while Russ is away, I will talk about a rather charming take on A Christmas Carol, a very hardy perennial favorite, but a very unusual take on A Christmas Carol that I saw last week at Windsor, Theatre Royal Windsor, and it was presented in the style of a radio play. Lovely cast, all on stage throughout, and all beautifully costumed in the style of a traditional early 20th century, late 19th century Christmas carol get up. And what the production did was, as I say, to stage it as a radio play. Very much going back to the grassroots of radio drama. So some fabulous sound effects that were brought in and that were all made on stage before our very eyes by a Foley artist, which is, to give him a technical name, Michael Workman, rattling sheets to make the sound of thunder, winding in a fantastic wind machine to have the sound of the howling wind as Scrooge had to trudge his way through various lonely graveyards and whatever. Chains to clink for the sound of the chains as Jacob Marley showed up, or rather the ghost of Jacob Marley showed up. And the storytelling was left in the hands of a very, very capable cast. Now, Roy Marsden had written the adaptation for this radio play version. He played Scrooge, and he was costumed in a typical way in the old-fashioned nightgown. Scrooge, of course, having to spend this Christmas night being visited by the three spectres of Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future. And then around Roy Marsden, a handful of 6 or 7 other actors played the rest of the characters of A Christmas Carol. The lovely Jenny Seagrove popped up as the ghost of Christmas past, as well as also playing Bob Cratchit's wife, Mrs. Cratchit. Michael Praed was there, Robert Duncan,
Robin Hood.
Well, quite. And it was just a real, and I have to say, all credit to the theatre. I was there quite late in the run. It was only a short run of this particular production because their panto rolls into town this week. The theatre was packed. Excellent. And I have to say, all credit to Windsor and its supporting entourage of theatre-going audiences, because the theatre was packed. It spanned the generations. It was family entertainment with a hall, a venue full of people having really a gorgeous evening of theatre. We all know the story. That the story was just told, but I guess the little ones in the theatre, of course, to them, of course, A Christmas Carol is new. It was just lovely. It was beautiful, beautiful storytelling told by a bunch of actors who really know their way around a script. It was radio, so they were holding their scripts, but nonetheless, you know, you if you wanted to shut your eyes, as I did from time to time, not to sleep, I hasten to add, but just to get the radio experience, it was just lovely.
And where was I'm sorry, I
this
missed.
Was at Windsor. Understood. This was Theatre Royal Windsor.
Theatre Royal Windsor.
Theatre Royal Windsor.
I'm so sorry I had to leave, but when a funeral director calls me, I have to take the call because you never know what's happened. I've just done him a huge favor.
So and I understand this was the first time I've ever seen one of Windsor's radio plays, but I will be back because, as I say, it takes good drama, strips it down to the radio narrative of many decades previously, when radio drama was the real way that an awful lot of people, it was the only way they got to experience drama, long before television, and when theatres was still a thing of a luxury thing in a town far away. It was just lovely. It was a really lovely way to start the festive season in the theatre. One of the cast members, a woman called Shannon Rucroft, has a stunning voice, and there were moments of some beautiful soprano singing that occurred throughout the play. And at the end,
I'm so sorry. Let me interrupt because I'm just acting as everyman here. This is Christmas Carol. Did you say?
This was a Chris. Sorry, yeah, this is a Christmas Carol.
How come they're singing in it?
No, they brought in some songs, and at the end, after the cast had all taken their bows, there were carols for all. which had been printed in the program. Bar humbug, Mr. Kane. Bar humbug. You boy, what day is this?
You boy.
You know what? We should do a midday show Christmas carol.
Let's not.
How there's
yeah. I wonder what part I'd play.
Well, quite.
I wonder what part I'd
yeah,
play.
I think you wouldn't be straight out of
theatre. Theatre Royal's it's got a very loyal audience, hasn't it? Very loyal. It comes from quite a long way away. And I think anything, and you and I, we've talked about this before, because this is your real domain, that anything that keeps theatres going and open and alive is wonderful. Anything.
Oh, quite. But it's and if it's quality as well, and this was quality, it was lovely. But just thinking, if we were to do this Christmas Carol production, you wouldn't be a Scrooge straight out of Central Casting. I think Central Casting would be onto you, Russ, to have you on their books.
And who would Phil? Phil could be Tiny Tim.
Well, quite. Yes.
Very sweet. Phil took me out for lunch yesterday. It was very nice.
Bloody hell.
You see, some people, they understand. They understand how to grease the wheels of industry.
Yes, quite.
Graham, I'm not putting that up. It's very silly and very old.
Tell me, Russ, you know what I mean? Are we still alone, you and I?
I'm afraid so.
Oh,
yes, I'm afraid so. Well, we can say we don't need a mystery. Jonathan has a delightful guest booked, and the delightful guest has vamoosed.
Yes.
Yeah. Rosemary says this: Phil would be great as Tiny Tim. Yep, thank you. Christmas isn't about religion anymore. It's only about money. And it has only been, let's be honest about it, it has only been about money for so many years. So many years.
Well, it certainly has been commercialized. I get that.
Just a bit.
But it does also come with a huge degree of tradition. The fact that Christmas trees do pop up, the fact that some people, some cultures will celebrate Christmas, even though it doesn't bear any religious significance to their community, but they will. And whilst I agree completely, it has been commercialized. I'm more concerned, not so much about the commercialization that's encroached, but whether other cultural forces will seek to dilute it even more. Because
do you think?
For such a long time, it was it has been part of the fabric of this country. Though we had a very funny, again, referencing back to Baz Towers last year. Last year, myself and Mrs. Baz were away. We were out of the country in the beginning of December, and our younger Master Baz returned from his residency in the United States, together with his beautiful young lady in tow. And he had asked us beforehand, could we have a Christmas tree in the house for the first time ever? And there was a high-level debate at the highest levels of family concern, and we decided no. We said, we've got the lights outside on the tree outside on the street. It would be we're not going to have a Christmas tree in the house. And we communicated this accordingly. We were away sunning ourselves on the other side of the world, having a holiday at the beginning of December. Younger son Julie arrived from the airport, and a day or so after he'd arrived, we were surprised as our phones buzzed with a message from the Ring doorbell that showed him and said girlfriend sneaking a Christmas tree on their shoulders into the house, thinking we wouldn't know about it. And there we are, sipping gin and tonic by the pool, absolutely crying with laughter at this Ring doorbell grassing them up with the Christmas tree arriving in their house, which of course we took in jolly good spirits, and it was good fun.
I just wonder, everybody watching all over the world, you got little kids and they want the Christmas tree, and the lights and everything are up in the loft, and you can't be asked you can't even borrow Jonathan's ladder because it's, as he said, it's not long enough. I'll leave it there. So you've got to get up into the loft, then you've got to go through 38 tons of detritus to find the lights, which of course have tangled themselves into a Gordian knot of epic proportions, and then they don't work.
Okay. So this is where I am not usually one of life's most organized people. However, whilst we do engage the services of our handyman to put the lights up, when it comes to taking the lights off the tree after 12th night, I can just about manage that myself, and dragging these strings of fairy lights off. And then what I do is I dry them off, because it had been rained on and occasionally snowed on, and I coil them up, and then, excuse me while I score mega brownie points here, I use cable ties, not to tie someone up. I use cable ties. Well, quite. Sorry. To keep the sheaths of the bindings of the lights in a neat order. So there are 3 or 4 strings of lights, all neatly tied up. So I would strongly recommend go to your local knick-knack shop that sells things for £1, get a packet of cable ties, and come 12th night, coil up your Christmas lights and tie them up with cable ties. You will thank me in 12 months' time. That's all I can say.
So not only, I agree with Graham. This is Graham's comment, which I think, for once, you will appreciate. Keep a tree up all year. It doubles as a Christmas tree, a Valentine's tree, an Easter bush, and a Halloween tree. Graham, I'm kind of with you on that. Neil Long, who does the show with me on a Monday and then has his own show on Wednesdays, Neil Long keeps his Christmas. I said to him once, boy, you've got that up early. And Liz Saul said, happened to be in his house at the time, said, no, he's never taken them down. These lights, Neil goes for it big time. It's like a disco at his house, absolutely like a disco.
I have to say,
this is nice. This is nice. Always look forward to Christmas. Love being around the grandkids, playing with Nerf guns and other toys. Yeah, you haven't seen my group. We're not going there. Good luck with that.
M16s rather than Nerf guns.
Yes, Kalashnikovs, AK-47s. That'll do that.
I'm just sadly, the thought of an Easter bush is troubling me. That's a phrase.
Just move on.
Yes, that's a phrase that I wish had not entered my vocabulary. But you've gone and put it there.
I've just got over the fact your ladder isn't long enough, causing consternation in the area. Anyway,
but it's also a chance to look forward at what is around theatre-wise. And there will be a huge amount of, I have to say, I'm setting foot on a plane in a couple of days to go and celebrate Thanksgiving. So watch out, you turkeys, over in the US of A, and then I'm back. And then it's non-stop. Have I reviewed any of Lindsay Posner's shows?
Well known.
Yes, the name rings a bell. And this is
where
my mind.
Esther, though. Esther, I just want to say something to Esther, who I've known for many years. Esther, it's so sad, isn't it? When there's a brother and sister, and one of the siblings gets all the talent. Just saying.
The answer to your question, Esther, is actually yes. Quite a bit of stuff by your brother. Most gorgeously was, of course, his Noises Off that I caught up with in Richmond, which had the wonderful, and I'm just looking at my headline cast review of it. It had Felicity Kendall, Tracy Ann Oberman, and Matthew Kelly.
Wow! Yes. That
was a blinder of a show. He's just, of course, done 1984, which is probably on the road as we speak, and probably coming off the road, ready for pantomimes to move into places.
Oh no, it
isn't. With ho ho ho, with Keith Allen. What else have I seen?
Keith Allen scares the hell out of me.
Gosh, yes. He's very, very gifted director, and good to know that he's your brother. What a talented family you
they are. And if you don't know Esther Ray, she's the most charming person. And if you ever get a chance to see her performing as a jazz singer, she's often in town. Go along; you'll have a good evening because she's jolly nice too. So that's the main thing. That is.
But other Christmas stuff that's happening that's going to be crossing my
I've got
radar.
a question for you. I do have a question for you. It's a serious theatre thing. I'm not just because I'm on the tube nearly every day. So that's the way that I get my theatre information, because I see the posters and you think, right, they're putting some money behind this because there's the marketing right in front of your face. And we just dashed to Spain very quickly. Hello, Chrissy Richards. So we've got Tenerife, we've got Spain. It's lovely. What are those? There's a Sherlock Holmes event, isn't there? Sherlock Holmes play.
There is, yes, which I'm not seeing, don't know much about, but I get a Sherlock Holmes themed Christmas Carol.
Right, okay.
So
because I'm a Sherlock Holmes, I'm sort of, Arthur Conan Doyle nut, to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
And have you ever been to those, slightly extending your remit, unlike your ladder? Have you ever been to those Christmas themed dinners, which look, the posters are huge and it says, the most spectacular evening you'll have? Have you ever done anything like that?
No, because I guess what I've learned, as you will also know, things that are billed as the most spectacular thing ever very rarely, if never, live up to that. So that's usually
it's a warning sign.
Yes, to quote the old Monty Python Bruce's sketch talking about wine, this is not an event for attending. This is an event for avoiding. It's
what was that from?
There was there was a bunch of Australians discussing wine. This is not a wine for drinking. This is a wine for laying down and avoiding. I think they're referring to Perth Pink in that particular line of the sketch.
Perth Pink.
Yes. But there's a very lovely Christmas Carol that's going off at the Old Vic. There are pantomime with John Sim. There are pantomimes aplenty. I'll be taking in a load of pantomimes. I'll be heading off to Maidstone to see their panto. I'll be heading hopefully to Hackney to see Clive Rowe in his, and Clive Rowe is always a fabulous pantomime dame. We'll also be at the Palladium for the outrageous.
God, did you win the lottery?
But I have to say, it is good.
Prices are eye-watering.
If time permits, I hope to get to Leicester to see My Fair Lady, which if Nikolai Foster.
Oh yes, because our lovely friend Steve First is in that.
Okay.
Steve First, who was brilliant as Fagin, and they were hoping that it was going to come into town because the reviews were so sensational. I think we talked about it. And then Cameron McIntosh decided to wheel his juggernaut in, so that booted that into touch. And now he's doing My Fair Lady. He put up some shots on Facebook to his pals, and he looks hilarious as Eliza's dad.
Doolittle, Alfred. Yes.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll get up to that, out to Sonning, the mill at Sonning.
Oh, the mill at Sonning. Nice.
The mill at Sonning are doing White Christmas.
Feel that.
Musical, all songs and music written by Irving Berlin, and again a lovely festive bit of fun.
God, Clitheroe. You're younger than me, but Sundays I used to dread because it was the Clitheroe Kid on the light program. Oh, Jesus, I didn't get it. He was about 200 years old and he's playing a child, which I found freaky in itself. So that was in Blackpool from Philip Harling. Graham is taking 3-year-old granddaughter to the panto at the Beck Theatre. Beck is BECK, where I did.
I thought that was the Bach Theatre in Hayes he's referring to.
The Bach Theatre. No, it's the Beck Theatre in Hayes.
Choose your typo.
Oh God, look, God's coming for me. Look at the light. The Beck Theatre is fabulous. I did a very happy panto run there of Peter Pan with John Altman from EastEnders, and where I met and shared a dressing room for 2 months with now one of my best mates, Jeff Stevenson. It's a lovely theatre if you're in the Hayes area, and it's easy to park. It's got a proper car park.
Russ, you need to grab a clip of the show as it is at the moment with this divine light coming in from behind you, because you are the celebrant with Celebrant Plus.
You see, that's why I had to take the call from the funeral director. and help him. Oh, that's really
Quite.
freaking me out. This is freaking me out a little bit.
Unless you just
I'll
maybe
be honest with you.
close the curtains a
Oh,
tad.
I can't. That's it. That's as
Fair
close
enough.
that's as close as they get.
Fair
Wow.
enough.
Oh, yeah.
So there really is
Isn't
a
it?
huge amount of theatre.
The thing about
and
the
fun going
Palladium
on.
Panto, in all seriousness, if you've seen one, you kind of
Yes.
see it's a great experience. I went once or twice, and the second time I thought, well, I've seen this now. It's just basically how ridiculous can we make Julian Clary look in a costumes costing fortunes, and being with a filthy script, and Nigel Havers being Nigel Havers. It looks sensational. It is sensational. It's an event. It's something to
And you
do. But if you've
can at
seen it, you've
least
seen it.
see. I would agree with you. It certainly is not cheap by any means. But at
Oh,
least when you look at the stage, you can see you can see where a lot of the money has been spent. You can see it on the scenery. You can see it in the large chorus of dancing boys and dancing girls that are that are there, and you see it in Julian Clary's costumes. And one of
you've never seen anything. By the way, it's not just like a costume. Every time he walks on, the whole audience goes. It's extraordinary. I mean,
and
extraordinary.
it's interesting. If I look back to Hello Dolly, which was on at the Palladium earlier this year, which of
Imelda
course had
Staunton.
the stunning Imelda Staunton.
Yeah.
Her Dolly Levi was great, and what was really lovely was you think of Dolly Levi initially, and the gut reaction is Barbara Streisand,
Of course,
and that's the knee jerk shtick that you think of.
It's hard
But
to get past.
actually, of course, Dolly Levi was not Jewish. Dolly Levi started out life as Dolly Gallagher with Irish roots, who married her much beloved, now departed Ephraim Levi. So Levi is her married surname. And there was a lovely authenticity to what Imelda brought to that role, without doubt. But going back to the fact that it was at the Palladium, I expected more bang for my buck.
Of course you do.
And for sure, the restaurant scene in the Harmonia Gardens, where the waiters do their gallop, was good fun. But for the rest of it, I was slightly underwhelmed, and I wasn't knocked off my seat in the way that I expected to be by seeing Hello Dolly at the London Palladium. That in itself came with such a huge degree of expectation, that whilst, as I say, the acting was fantastic, Jenna Russell, Imelda Staunton, it was good. The cast was gorgeous, and it was a lovely night at the theatre.
It's really
go on.
I was going to say this is very interesting. I'm thrilled they brought Panto back to the West End at the Palladium, which is its natural home. They didn't for many years, and when I was doing all that nonsense, there were always rumors, if our show had been a big hit, that they say, oh, it might transfer, which would be, what a dream. Of course, they never did, much to Lionel Blair's upset. But the last panto I saw before they'd brought it in with Julian Clary and Gary Wilmot, the great Gary Wilmot, who I had the pleasure of doing panto with, and just the nicest man on the planet, right? I can tell you, I was so young, it was Cliff Richard as Aladdin. That was the last, and Alfred Mark. I can forget. I was tiny. So Alfred Marks, who was a famous actor, was playing Abanazar, scaring the crap out of everybody. Cliff Richard was Cliff. So the screaming, he was at the height of his,
So this was in the 60s or the 70s?
Yeah, no, 60s.
60s,
Definitely in the 60s, because the 70s it kind of waned a little bit, but in the 60s, early 60s, I was really little. I think my grandmother took me or something.
Right.
So there hadn't been a panto, as far as I know. I might well be wrong about most things, until they rolled this juggernaut in, which they thought, well, they'll give it a go. And now it's become an institution. And at those prices, I am both stunned and delighted, quite honestly.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, what is nice though about panto in most regional houses is that it's affordable, and it's a lovely way for people to go to their local theatre, have a good old laugh and a giggle. I know for a fact right now that the elder Master Baz is currently hard at work rehearsing his pantomime, which opens in a couple of weeks in Maidstone.
Oh, good.
And oh yes, it does.
Okay.
And that'll be added. That'll be added to the list, if not really formally reviewed. And you know,
Look, nepotism works for me. I think you need to give it a glowing review. A glowing review. And in the lead is Master Baz. I'm completely unbiased, but the most brilliant, luminescent performance I have ever seen, reminding me of Lord Olivier at his finest.
I think you've just qualified for the Critic Circle. Congratulations.
I could be the Critic Circle. Well, we will see you in 2 weeks.
Indeed, in 2 weeks.
Thank you as always. I hope your ladder gets extended at least once this year, because
God bless you. Otherwise, I'll catch you in that Easter bush.
You will. Bye-bye, Mr. Jonathan Baz. Bye. Jonathan Baz, our fabulous theatre critic. Right. You've already cast her as the good fairy. And she is. And if I feel a bit better today, I'll be seeing her later this evening for some film which I've never heard of, but it's an opportunity to sit there and eat popcorn noisily next to her. Ladies and gentlemen, Chantal Rickards OBE.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
Hello. I'm well. Interesting you should say I fainted this morning. I don't know what the hell happened.
You fainted?
Yeah,
what was that all about?
Well, I don't know. I've seen no
I
idea.
remember at school we used to try this wheeze. It never actually worked, so I'm not going to recommend it. We would put blotting paper in our shoes because for some reason we all thought that it was going to make us faint. And this was an idea for getting out of the maths class at school. But the nuns weren't having any of it. It never actually worked. Never
the nuns.
Worked. Yes.
The nuns.
So put the blotting paper to one side. Not that anybody uses blotting paper, except for you.
Yeah, there is me, obviously, because I use an ink pen. I got to mention this. Kitty Lashmar, who's watching this from Tenerife.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Very close by.
And she says this: even now, I cringe over Lionel Blair singing Ricky Martin's "She Bangs." Right? When I did panto, I can't remember, once or twice with Lionel, and he was perfectly nice to me. He was very nice. What is this? What's going on here? Oh, you can just stop that. Oh, it's Lanzarote. I'm sorry, it's Lanzarote. Right. Right. There's all sorts of stories going on. So there was a scene where Riverdance was very popular at the time, right? It was very popular. And Lionel and the boys and girls in the panto would do this so-called Riverdance. And I was sharing a dressing room with Sean Maguire, who'd just was a pop singer at the time and just come out of EastEnders, I think it was, and now he's in Hollywood and made a big Hollywood. Look, we got on like a house on fire because I said, "Oh, it's going to be difficult." Everyone said to me, and he was great. We just became buddies, and we still chat, right? And Sean was laughing. We were standing in the wings, and Lionel's doing all this Riverdance, and Sean, I said, "Man, what's so funny?" He said, "I was the runner-up in the All Ireland Irish dancing competition." Wow. Trust me, that's not Riverdance. But Lionel was the consummate professional. I know everybody mocks him and everything like that, but he was the consummate professional. Never gave anything less than 100%. And this is funny. Esther Ray saying this: "Oi, oi, Lionel went to school with my mum."
Oh,
they were friends for many years. That's
really
nice. Now, I was thinking of you yesterday, Chantal Rickards OBE.
Good. I hope it was in a good way.
Always, only ever in a marvelous way. Because your lovely friend, who you introduced me to, Julian Alcantara,
Yes, indeed,
invited me to one of his events at the British Film Institute to see Mad Max 2, Road Warrior, which was made a billion years ago with a very, very young Mel Gibson. And it was the most wonderful event. I have to say that your pal Julian puts on the most. I went on my own because I kind of just like to go on my own, really. And also, I get an extra ticket and I can put my coat down so no one can sit next to me. That's how I work. I don't like people sitting next to me. I know, I'm a little.
I'll sit a long way from you tonight.
No. Except if it's you. If it's you, you can, that's fine. But Strangers, no, I'll put my coat there. Anyway, it was great. He had a string quartet on stage playing the theme tune from Mad Max, and then a fabulous jazz singer, not Esther Ray, but an award. Somebody else came on and sang "We Don't Need Another Hero." We had to sing along to the chorus, which was just great. There was a quiz with fantastic prizes. Amazing. And then they have all these interviews from the people who'd been in the film, just made especially for this one night only, from Australia. And then, you will like this, George Miller, one of the great directors, directed Mad Max and all the rest of it, a long interview on screen just for us.
Fantastic.
Just for us. It was a thrill. Then I watched the film, and then I left. It was great. So it's called what does it call it? The action. What does he call it?
The Action Film Festival.
The Action Film Festival. Yeah. That's it. It's great. Thank you for the introduction.
No,
he's a charming fellow. Yes, Joyce Blair, who went off to live in America for years. Lionel Blair's sister. She was scary. She passed now, but she was scared of me. She was on like the Morecambe and Wise show or something. She was scared. I don't know why. Right. That's it. And a show you will love. Yeah. A show you will love. My favorite author, Anthony Horowitz.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about it in a minute.
No, I leave it to you. All I will say,
yes,
I will say no more than I thought. I'll just give it one episode. I binge watched the lot.
You're way ahead of me in that case.
I had to see what happened.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to be quiet.
Well, give us a couple of minutes and we'll get to that. And then you can give us a more informed opinion of actually, I've only seen the first episode, so you can give us the full SP on it. But I'm going to start with, you may or may not remember, about a year ago, maybe even a couple of years ago, I recommended that everybody watch a documentary film called The Mole Agent. It was nominated for an Oscar in the documentary category. And it was a real story about an 83-year-old Chilean man who went undercover into an old people's home because one of the children of one of the fellow guests, if you like, at the old people's home was apparently being harassed or hassled by somebody else, and that things had gone missing from this woman's room. All a completely true story. Well, that true story has given rise to a fantastic new series on Netflix with Ted Danson, who we were talking about the other day. Ted Danson, who is definitely the best looking 76-year-old on the planet. And it it's called A Man on the Inside, but it's basically a sort of, undercover. He's an undercover OAP who plays this original character, but of course, clearly it's been moved to California. So he goes into a California old age residential home, and it's delightfully done, absolutely delightful. It reminds me a little bit of Grace and Frankie, which I adored, which was the Jane Fonda, Martin Sheen series that came out 6 or 7 years ago, but just beautifully played out by people who are in their later acting years, but phenomenally good actors. So the additional cast of characters that play alongside Ted Danson in this are fabulous as well. And of course, it's the thrills and spills of what goes on behind closed doors in those residential homes. And because Ted Danson is who he is, he's tall, he's suave, he's elegant. All the women are hitting on him from the minute that he walks in the front door. It's not laugh out loud funny because it's not played for gags. It's not a gag show. It's much more clever than that. You just come away feeling so much better about life. And you would think, actually, do I really want to spend half an hour with a lot of old people in a residential home? The answer is yes, you do, because it's life affirming, life enhancing. And Ted Danson can just act his way on and off the screen as long as he likes, as far as I'm concerned. He's very good. He's fantastic.
Mind you, see, I wake up every morning, look in the mirror and say, do I want to spend you've got only half an hour. I said, do I want to spend the next 24 hours?
No, I saw. I was going through YouTube and looking at all the late night shows in America, and he was obviously doing the rounds. And this is what he was talking about. But he's such a nice human being.
Apparently so.
Yeah, he just comes across really well.
Although, with respect,
yes,
he wouldn't swap sandwiches with Larry David.
He would. This sounds very random. He
No.
wouldn't.
In Curb Your Enthusiasm, there's a fabulous episode where you know, because you lived in Hollywood for years, that there's certain places that'll have the Ted Danson sandwich, the Leonardo salad, and all this nonsense. Right? And Larry goes in, and he doesn't like the constituent parts of the sandwich, right? Of the Larry David sandwich, and he asks Ted Danson, and he prefers Larry David, the curmudgeon. That's why I love him. He sees the constituent parts of the Ted Danson sandwich and he wants to swap. And Ted Danson says, no, that is my sandwich. It's up on the board and I'm happy. And Larry David takes great affront that Ted Danson won't swap over the sandwich.
Okay.
It's so stupid. And I thought summed up Hollywood in a nutshell.
Yeah.
The egos that are out of control.
Completely crazy. Completely.
So I suppose you'll be having, Ellen DeGeneres and her wife round for dinner, and then you'll invite me, and it'll all kick off badly. Now that she's left America.
Has she? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's come to live here with
really?
Portia de Rossi, her missus. Yeah.
Well, how interesting.
Not really. We don't want them. We don't want them here. We don't need all this. Who's going to be coming? I don't know. Let's just find the P. Diddy list, shall we? Oh, what a surprise. They're all here. They're all in Guildford.
No, I can't see them all going down to Guildford. But anyway, I mean,
they're in somewhere rural. They're not in London. Yeah.
Well, there are lots of Americans here. I mean, a lot of people have, continued to have homes on both sides of the Atlantic for many, many years. And I think you'd be surprised about how many American Hollywood types have got homes over here. Yes. But they keep themselves to themselves generally, and they find
absolutely
that, it's an easier place to live in many ways.
Somebody like Tom Cruise, to my amazement, people said, I thought I saw him in, and he's just very quiet and just gets on.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought? Biggest star in the world. Fantastic.
Yeah.
What else have you seen?
Anyway, so yes, take a look. It's on Netflix. And it is called A Man on the Inside, and I've watched the first 2 episodes and I just adored every minute, really. And it's been very well reviewed, so I don't think I'm a voice in the wilderness on this one. So take a look. I think it'll be fun. Anyway, so then I have a couple of things that have got a sea theme. The first one was, in fact, it's a nominated film for this year for BAFTA. It's a documentary film, and it's it's a very peculiar story about a bunch of women in Korea who dive to bring up things like sea urchins, edible food from the rocks in the sea. They dive without breathing apparatus. It's a very old-fashioned way of sustainable fish farming, if you like. Not fish particularly, but things like sea urchins and all the sort of crustaceans, those sorts of things.
Lobster thermidor.
Exactly. They've been doing this for hundreds of years, hundreds of generations. They don't use breathing tanks at all, so no oxygen tanks are used. But they used to, I think in the 1960s, there were about 30,000 of these women. They're mostly in their 60s and 70s. And you think, what is it?
How's that possible?
You just see all these elderly women putting on wetsuits. And you think, is this some sort of wetsuit fishing or swimming club? It's just absolutely peculiar.
Are they at the Serpentine on Christmas Day, or whatever it is? Yes,
exactly. But actually, they're all going fishing. So the sort of the theme that runs through it is the fact that this is dying out. They used to be 30,000 of them. They're down to 3,000. Young women don't see don't see the sort of poetry in it any longer. It's a hard way to make money. And they're going, no, let's just get oxygen tanks and just go down and,
We'll go to Tesco's. They've got a big fish department.
Exactly. So there's a bit of a fight between old and new and sustainable and not sustainable. But the background to all of this, there's a long story about the fact that the waters from Fukushima, where there was a nuclear accident 10 or 12 years ago, those waters are now being released into the ocean. Ooh. So little by little, they've done 2 water releases. So the women start campaigning to save the seas, basically, because based in Korea, they are just down the road, as it were, a couple of waves away from Fukushima, and they are worried about this waste going into the water system. It's beautifully done. They take one of the women who's never been out of Korea in her life, elderly woman. They take her all the way to the United Nations, and it's a real, no pun intended, fish out of water experience for this woman to go to the UN in Switzerland. And it's a very beautiful moment. But it's really worth seeing. It's being talked up massively by Apple, because it's on Apple. It's called The Last of the Sea Women, which is a really difficult title to remember, because every time I've been trying to think about it over the last couple of weeks, I can't grasp the title. It just won't stay there because it's not memorable enough. I think they should have called it something else. But it's worth seeing. It's just sort of gentle and beautiful, but even more gentle and beautiful is a series on Netflix. Now, this might, not be your sort of thing, other than the fact that it's a beautiful series about wildlife, the seas, fish.
I like all that. You think I'm a complete Philistine? I like
do. You do like that.
You know I do.
Okay, but now I'm going to tell you something that it might just not pass the Kane test. It's made by, and the voiceover is done by, somebody who I personally think has got a beautiful voice and certainly knows how to narrate. And it's done by Barack Obama. So
right, well, I'm out. That's me. I'm done. Thank you. Don't need to know anymore.
You have to get over it. What's your sound on? No, it's on Netflix. It's a very good series and also massively well reviewed. A lot of people saying that he's not trying to be David Attenborough, because clearly he isn't. But the photography, the underwater photography, is astonishing. And there are 5 episodes, and they're all about different oceans. But it's well made. I mean, they've spent a lot of money on it. It's beautifully made.
What's it called?
The Sound of His Voice. It's called Our Oceans, and it's on Netflix.
R. Kelly.
No, not R. Kelly. R-O-U-R, Oceans. And it's on Netflix. 5 episodes. It's beautiful. But watch it with the sound down and just put the subtitles on. You'll be fine.
Can we push? Yes, we can.
He's got a love.
No, he's got. Look, it's fine. I would. Move on.
Okay.
He's very charismatic. I'll leave it.
Right. So, Cozy Crime. We're back to Cozy Crime. I found 2 things of Cozy Crime.
Oh, good. Hooray.
Especially for you. But I want you to tell us about the new Anthony Horowitz series, which is on the BBC, and it's called Moonflower Murders. So over to you.
Oh, well, okie dokie. It's kind of part of a series. All right, just for transparency, Anthony Horowitz has been incredibly kind to me when I had my first novel out, and very supportive, and he's a charming man. He's also my favorite writer. If I could write like anybody, it would be, seriously, if you could wave a magic wand, if I could write like him, I'd be made up. And the first one was called The Magpie Murders. Yeah. And there's little visual clues because magpies are flying. It's a little joke. And it's produced by him and his wife, Jill Green. So they are the ultimate power duo. And Magpie Murders really is involved. And it's very clever because it's all in the world of publishing, where you don't have to know anything about the world of publishing or how to be a writer or how to write or anything. And this is now the follow-on, but you don't need to have seen the first one. It's completely stand alone. Yeah. And it follows Leslie Manville, who was a very senior book editor in London, and she's left London and she's gone to live in Crete.
Yeah.
with her partner, and their relation's a little bit rocky, and they love each other, and they're trying to run this hotel which is falling apart. Basically, if I got it right, the
Absolutely.
roof this, and there's kitchen fires, and they're doing their best. And Crete looks magnificent.
It does. It look wonderful.
I was sitting there going, I just want to be there. I'm so cheesed off at the moment. I just want to be there. And out of the blue, a complete random couple come and say, we need your help. And she goes, well, I'm running a hotel. I don't know you from a hole in the wall. Their daughter has gone missing, and they offer her £10,000 for a week's work. Just come over to London. And she goes, I'm sorry, I don't understand. I'm a book editor. I'm not a detective. Why are you asking me? And it all revolves around a book written by one of her authors, who the daughter was reading. And they think the clue to her disappearance lies in this fictional book, which features a very deliberately Hercule Poirot character called Atticus Punt, who's Austrian instead of Belgian. And she takes the case because she needs the 10 grand, basically. She thinks, well, what have I got to lose?
Yeah,
and what he's done, what Anthony Horowitz did, and the book was sensational. The moment his books come out, boom, I get it immediately.
Oh, so you've read the books already?
Oh, God, I read the book. It's the moment it came out. The moment the book's published, I get it in hardback. If it's an Anthony Horowitz, boom, I'm there. And what he's done is he's done Hamlet. So it's a play within a play.
Yeah.
So you've got the story of this fictional book set in the maybe 1930s, 1920s. I don't know. A long time ago, right? And you've got the current mystery of why this person has been murdered in their hotel, and now the daughter's gone missing. And that's it. So you've got the two storylines running in parallel. And the beauty of what the BBC have done, kills me to say it, but they have done it brilliantly. Well, Anthony Horowitz and Jill Green have, is they've got the same actors playing two different parts.
Yeah. And
it's just great.
This sounds complicated, but actually the way that it's done in the program, your brain can split in half
completely
and follow both bits at the same time.
It's more difficult to explain than it is to watch.
Absolutely.
That's all I've got to say. And it's beautifully done. Leslie Manville's great.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic. I got
great other characters. Daniel Mays.
Daniel Mays. Yes.
Interesting people. I think Mark Gatiss in it? I can't recall.
Mark Gatiss is in it, being really creepy.
Yeah. So
really creepy.
Good people in it. And I think it's clearly going to become a staple. I mean, there'll be more and more spin-offs.
It could be. He's writing as fast. His man's writing as fast as he can. And every book's just an absolute belter. And it's great. There you go. Moonflower Murders. That's it. BBC Moonflower.
It's
on iPlayer. You can binge the whole lot if you're an idiot like me, or you can eke it out. One a week. Do whatever you like. It's your choice.
Okay. All right. Well, you're way ahead of the game on that one. Well, in that case, your weekend viewing should be Return to Paradise, which is part of the Paradise franchise. Have you seen it?
No.
Oh, good. So it's just started. It might have even been yesterday, I think it went to air, or maybe the day before. I can't quite remember.
Oh, really?
So Return to Paradise is the third in the set of Paradises. We know Death in Paradise. We know the one where Chris Marshall went off to have a new life down in Cornwall, which is, can't remember the name of that one. And then this one is Return to Paradise.
Well, that one's called Rinsing Paradise. Wringing it till it squeaks Paradise.
Yeah, but it works. I mean,
it works. Chris Marshall's just one of those, well, for me, one of those actors that whatever is in, you think, oh, I'm enjoying this, even though the plot is as shaky as hell. But I hope he's as nice and, I don't know, I'm never going to meet him, but I just like his style.
Me too. Me too. I'm already looking forward to watching him in Love Actually, which I will watch at Christmas again. Because I always do, at least once a year, mostly at Christmas.
Hang on, we're getting fantastic goss coming in from our worldwide audience. Okay. Kimi Lashmar in Lanzarote, used to know Leslie Manville when she dated Peter Duncan.
Wow.
Well, Peter Duncan from Blue Peter Duncan. That
Well,
Peter Duncan.
I
Good
presume
God,
so.
who knows? Wow, you heard it first on the Midday Show. With Chantal Rickards OBE. Right, okay.
That definitely wasn't gossip that I knew. So
there you go. They know everything, this gang. This gang, they're on it. They're on it like a rocket. Right, sorry.
Anyway,
so this is the one. Is this the one in Australia, or am I going mad?
Australia, because I think I mentioned it a couple of months ago to say that it was on the way. Well, it's now here. 6 episodes. There is a very good actress, Anna Sampson, who is playing the lead role. She has left London to go back to this fictional part of
course,
Australia, called Dolphin Cove, I think. She obviously left under a cloud because people don't want her back. So there are 2 other stories about why she left London and why she originally left Australia. And this is going to unravel and unfurl for the coming 6 episodes. So, and she's slightly abrupt. She's clever. And they've written her with a bit of a chip on her shoulder, but she's a little bit supercilious, but she's very good, because always in those Death in Paradise, wherever they replace the lead character as the copper, who's the fish out of water type copper, and they get the next one in, they're all given these very particular roles to play with their own idiosyncrasies and their own sense of humor and all of those sorts of things. She, I think, is going to be one of the ones that we'll remember for a long time. She is a little bit idiosyncratic, but she's so good at what she does, she gets you on side straight away. And again, very good set of secondary characters. So the Death in Paradise thing was always very clever, because there were very few people that you had to remember. It was probably 6 people only who were returning characters, and you got to know them really quite well in each episode.
They only made one mistake. They made one slip. Personally, they brought in Selwyn, the commissioner's niece, and I thought, oh, come on, she's so incompetent and silly. Yeah. And I thought, you just wouldn't be. I know the whole thing's nonsense anyway, but this is like, you can't stretch my credulity till it snaps, And thank God she left the series. She didn't work at all.
No, she didn't really work at all.
I'm looking forward, though. They got the Christmas one, because I've seen some photos from Elizabeth Burgoyne.
Yes.
Who I tweet with, and she always replies instantly. So it's charming. What a glamorous woman. She runs the bar. The lady who runs the bar on the seaside.
Oh, of course.
Elizabeth Burgoyne, she is very glamorous and extremely French, and in real life, ludicrously chic and much bigger star than we take her for, because she does all these photo shoots. Looks amazing. Anyway, that's good.
Yeah. So
what do you call it? You've made lots of programs. I have a question for you. What do you call it when you've created something which is, it's so clever, but you can take out the lead character, Chris Marshall or whoever it might be, replace him, and the show remains as good as ever? How does that? That's a big leap, isn't it?
Well, it is, but I mean, they've done it with James Bond for 1,000 years. So, and we suspend,
that's right.
suspend our belief every time we see somebody different, and clearly Daniel Craig will not be the next James Bond, and so it'll be somebody else.
Because he died.
Well, we think he's dead. We presume he's dead. I know nothing about this.
You get hit by a barrage of whacking great missiles fired off a British frigate. You're going to have more than a paper cut. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm no technical expert. It's my guess as a pundit.
Yeah. No, well, I don't think he's coming back, but they still haven't announced who it's going to be. So I haven't looked at the betting lately. It's quite interesting to see the bet.
I think it's going to be Phil Dave.
You think it's going to? Well,
Phil Dave. I think they're going for a radical, whole new look.
A whole new look.
New Phil.
Right. Well, I'll go and put a $5 on now down at Ladbroke. Might be the last $5 I have in my life.
In your life. Phil Dave is James Bond.
Yes. And tonight we are going to see something called
Oh yes,
A
what
Real
are we going
Pain,
to see?
or You're a Real Pain, or It's a Real Pain, or It's a Pain in the Butt, or it's.
No,
I know
I
the
think
word
it's just called Russ Kane, Monstrous Pain in the Ass. That's the name of the film.
Cane and Pain. I
Pain
don't.
and
Yes. I'll look it up before we get there. So
yeah,
I'll,
that's an idea. I don't want to see another documentary about jaguars in the Amazon. Thank you. We're supposed to be seeing an adventure film.
right. I'll see you later then.
Yes, you will. I'm looking for. Is it a thriller? What is it? I need to get my
I
expectations.
don't know. I haven't looked it up.
I'm just going for the popcorn and to see you. To be brutally honest,
Right. We better get.
That'll be. Well, there we are, Chantal. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
If I don't faint again, I will see you this evening. If I
Happy
faint again,
choice.
I'll send a message.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right.
Bye bye. Bye bye. The fabulous. Where are we? Take that off. Right. The fabulous Chantal Rickards OBE with her roundup of things to watch on TV. If I worked hard on that, I can make a haiku out of it. Thank you, as I always say, for joining all the gang on the Midday Show. It's me and Phil and Baz Boy and Chantal and Liz Saul and everybody else. Thank you so much. Your company is fantastic. Love it when you join from all around the world. What fun. If you're on holiday, have a wonderful, wonderful time. And if you're just going down to, Little or Asda, stay safe. Don't have a row with anybody in the trolley park. It's always a hotbed of problems, isn't it? And we will be back, heaven willing, on Monday. And until then, try to stay out of trouble. Bye-bye.